Most travelers come to Colombia and find a country they love. The warmth of Cartagena, the rhythm of Medellín, the Caribbean under their feet. These are real. These are beautiful. But this is also where most stories about this country end, and this one is just beginning. A river that turns red because of a plant that grows nowhere else on Earth. Palms taller than buildings, a city that stayed hidden for 1,000 years. Because this country doesn't read from coast to coast. It reads in floors. Welcome to Colombia. The ground floor is what everyone comes to see. Cartagena, on the Caribbean coast. 11 kilometers of colonial walls around an old town where almost nothing has changed in 300 years. The walls themselves are made of coral stone, cut from the reefs of the bay. Walk close enough and you can see fossils of sea urchins in the stone. But the coast is only the beginning. Before we climb, we follow it. On the Pacific side of the country, there is a region most Colombians have never been to. It rains here more than almost anywhere on Earth. 13,000 millimeters a year in some places. That is 13 meters of water falling. It is called Choco. Rainforest that runs straight into the Pacific Ocean. Stilted houses. Rivers that are the only roads. Choco gets more rainfall than the Amazon. The ground never fully dries. Biologists estimate this region holds 10% of all plant species on Earth, and every July, something arrives in these waters that has traveled farther than almost anything alive on Earth. Humpback whales. They come from Antarctica, 8,000 kilometers behind them. They come here to give birth. The water off this coast is warm, shallow, protected from the open sea. It is the place they have chosen. And while the mothers rest, the males sing. Some songs last 20 minutes, the longest continuous voice of any mammal. The songs have a clear structure. Themes that repeat. Melodies that spread from one male to another across the whole Pacific until every whale in the ocean sings the same song that season. Then they change it the next year. 800 kilometers off the Caribbean coast sits one of Colombia's most remote islands. 6,000 people live there. They speak English, not Spanish. And once a year, the Colombian army is deployed here with automatic rifles, not to guard the coast, to guard the crabs. For 2 months every spring, thousands of crabs cross the island on their way to the sea, so many at once that the roads turn red. The government closes the roads. Soldiers stand guard at checkpoints. The locals have to walk around the full length of the island to get from one side to the other. If a crab gets hit by a car, the fine is 3 months of minimum wage. The army is not protecting the people from the crabs. It is protecting the crabs from the people. Colombia is full of places like this, corners where one small thing exists and refuses to exist anywhere else. Deep in the plains, between the Andes and the Amazon, a river turns red. A deep, saturated red, almost magenta in full sun, pink in the shaded pools. It covers the riverbed for several kilometers. For an hour through the jungle. Its name is Caño Cristale, and the reason it turns red is a plant. A small aquatic plant that clings to the rocks of the riverbed. When the water level falls just enough to let sunlight touch it, but stays high enough to keep it alive, It blooms. It exists in this river, and nowhere else on Earth. Red from the plant, yellow from the sand, green from the moss, black from the rock, blue from the sky held in the water below. 5 colors at once. Some people call it the most beautiful river in the world. So far, we have seen the first 1,000 meters of this country. It has 8 more to climb. Further south, Medellín. The city sits in a narrow valley, so it keeps climbing up the slopes because there is nowhere else to go. And because it is at 5,000 feet, the weather never changes. 21 degrees all year, no winter, no summer. Around Medellín, there is a region Colombians call the coffee axis, a triangle of green hills with volcanic soil and slopes so steep no machine can climb them. The mist rolls in before sunrise. The earth is red, and the green of the coffee bushes cuts through it, one slope at a time. Every single bean is picked by hand. It has been like this for 150 years. In a wooden house on a hillside, a man is already working. His name, if he follows the tradition of these mountains, is Don Carlos or Don Julio, or whatever name his grandfather carried before him. The coffee in your cup comes from hands like his. He drinks tinto, a small cup of black coffee. Short, sweet, thick, mist sits low over the valley all morning. Coffee beans need that mist. Direct sun would burn them. Around him, the villages are painted in colors that should not exist together. Turquoise balconies next to red doors, next to yellow walls, next to green shutters. This region is called the Paisa. They started painting their houses like this in the 19th century with whatever pigments were cheapest. Indigo, ochre, lime green, they never stopped. A few hours west, above the coffee town of Salento, there is something growing in the clouds. Palms, 60 meters tall, the tallest palm species on the planet. Imagine a palm tree as tall as a 20-story building. Now imagine 2,000 of them standing in a field of grass, disappearing into low cloud. They are called wax palms because their trunks are coated in a fine white wax. For centuries, people scraped it off to make candles. They grew this tall because they had no choice. The cloud forest around them used to reach the same height, every tree chasing the same sun. Then cattle farmers came. They cleared the trees to make pasture. 70% of the original forest is gone. The palm stayed because cutting one is a crime. Colombia made the wax palm its national tree. Some of the ones in this valley started growing before World War I. A wax palm can live up to 120 years. Before the country reaches the sky, it passes through somewhere that should not exist. In the middle of a tropical country, a desert. They call it the Tatacoa. Red canyons in one half, gray, lunar shapes in the other, cactus, dry ground, 40 degrees in the shade. It is not really a desert. Geologists call it a dry tropical forest. Millions of years ago, it was jungle. The rain moved, the forest died, the soil stayed. And at night, something happens here that happens almost nowhere else on Earth. No city lights for 100 kilometers. The air is dry. The sky sits just above you. From this desert, you can see both hemispheres at once. Both halves of the Milky Way. Then, at dawn, the country keeps climbing. 1,000 meters, 2,000, 3,000. At around 3,000 meters, the trees stop. What comes next is a landscape that exists in only 6 countries on Earth. More than half of it is here. It is called the Páramo, a grassland that grows between the last forest and the first snow. It freezes at night, even though this is the equator. The air here has 30% less oxygen than at sea level. Walking feels like jogging. Your feet sink slightly in the soil, which holds water like a sponge. And standing in the fog by the thousands are these. They are called frail Jones, little friars. When the first Spanish explorers saw these plants through the mist of the high mountains, they thought they were an army. Thousands of figures in dark robes, standing still on a plateau. They turned their horses around and left. The frailejon does almost nothing, very slowly. It grows 1 centimeter a year. The tallest ones in this field, the ones that reach above your head, are 300 years old. And what they do, mostly, is drink fog. Their leaves are covered in fine silver hairs. When cloud passes through them, water collects, drop by drop. The plant absorbs it, holds it, and releases it slowly into the ground. 80% of the water that comes out of Colombian taps comes from here, from the fog these plants catch. Colombia's secrets don't only live up high, some are underground. Near Bogotá, the Colombian capital, under a mountain, Colombian miners have been digging for 600 years. The mine is still active. Salt from inside that mountain goes onto Colombian tables today. The same rock indigenous peoples were breaking off 800 years ago. The deposit is estimated at over 1 million cubic meters of pure salt. Enough to preserve food for centuries, back when there was no other way to keep meat. When the Spanish arrived, they were looking for a city made of gold. They found a city made of salt. Today, 200 meters under that mountain, there is a cathedral carved out of salt. The tunnels, the altar, the crosses, the dome, everything is salt. The tunnel is wide enough to drive a truck through. The air tastes salty. The walls are lit in colors: blue, green, violet. Everything you touch leaves salt on your fingers. 3,000 people gather here on Sundays, underground, to sing. The country still has 4 more floors to climb, and the higher it goes, the fewer footprints you find. Above 4,000 meters, the Páramo ends. What comes next is ice. In the heart of the Andes, a volcano. 5,300 meters, a cone of black rock wearing a glacier on its head. Its name is Nevado del Ruiz. It is the highest active volcano in the Andes. It breathes smoke every day. And right below the smoke, there is still ice. Fire and ice, a few meters apart. When this volcano erupts, the heat below melts the ice above. The water picks up rock, picks up ash, picks up speed. a river of mud, traveling faster than a car, that can reach a town 100 kilometers away in under 2 hours. Scientists call it a lahar. The mountain calls it gravity. It happened here in 1985, a small eruption at the top. A few hours later, a town called Armero, 60 kilometers away, was gone. 23,000 people, buried under 5 meters of mud in a single night. Further north, a different kind of high country. A chain of peaks that holds the largest mass of ice in Colombia. 15 summits above 5,000 meters. 150 lakes tucked between them. Each lake is filled by the melt of the glacier above it. The water is sapphire blue and so pure that drinking it for too long can make you sick. Some of these lakes have beaches. Sand that the glaciers made themselves, grinding rock for thousands of years. Up here, the silence is different. Not the silence of the forest. Not the silence of the desert. The silence of altitude. It is called El Coqui, 31 peaks. More glaciers than anywhere else in the tropical Andes. If you look up, you might see something larger than you. The Andean condor, the largest flying bird on the planet. 3 meters from wingtip to wingtip. It can soar for hours without flapping once, riding the columns of warm air that rise from the rocks. There are fewer than 100 left in Colombia. El Coqui is one of the last places you can still see one. The indigenous people who live in these foothills, the Uwa, say the glaciers are sacred. They believe that walking on them burns the soul of the mountain. Since 2017, it has been forbidden to step on the ice. They were right. The glaciers of El Coqui are melting fast. Scientists believe they will be gone in 20 to 30 years. The ice that has stood here since before humans existed will be gone within one lifetime. But the highest thing in Colombia is not a volcano, and it is not in the Andes. It is back on the Caribbean coast, rising straight out of the sea. A mountain range that climbs from warm sand to glacier in 40 kilometers. It is called the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, the highest coastal mountain range in the world. Its summit is called Pico Cristobal Colon, 5,775 meters. You can see the Caribbean from the top. No one has climbed it in decades. The peoples who live on this mountain have asked for it to be left alone. They say this is the top of the world, and the world is not something you step on. And somewhere in the middle of this mountain, lost in forest, no road can reach, there is a city. It is called Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City. It is built into a ridge on terraces carved from stone, 169 of them, connected by paths. arranged around small round plazas. To reach it, you climb 1,200 stone steps through the jungle. An arduous but rewarding trek of 3 to 5 days across the Sierra Nevada to Santa Marta. There is no other way in, no helicopter pad, no road. At the top, the forest opens. The terraces spread across the ridge. The Spanish never found it. It stayed invisible to the rest of the world until 1972, when tomb raiders stumbled onto it by accident, looking for bird feathers in the jungle. They called it the Green Hell. Climbing 1,200 steps into the jungle, they found gold, ceramics, carvings. And what is visible today is only a quarter of the city. The rest is still under the forest. There are over 200 similar sites in these mountains. Most of them no one has ever walked into. Their descendants are still here. The Kogi, they never left the mountain. And among them, the spiritual leaders are chosen at birth, taken into a hut with no light. They live there for 18 years, in the dark. To learn to see without looking. When they come out into the light, they see the mountain differently. They call the Sierra Nevada the heart of the world. The country hides things in altitude. It also hides them in time. Deep in the east, where the Amazon meets the savanna, 3 black monoliths rise out of the jungle. The tallest is 700 meters. Sheer granite, almost no vegetation, polished black by rain. No road reaches them. You come by boat, 3 hours upriver, through the lands of the Puinave people. And once you see them, the most interesting thing about these rocks is how old they are. 1.7 billion years. These stones were already standing before the first fish walked out of the ocean, some of the oldest exposed rock on the planet. The Puinave call them the dwelling place of the gods, a sacred site where, for them, the ancestors still watch over the forest. Next week, a land where you don't have to look up. You have to look far. A country where a single species outnumbers humans 10 to 1, where some of the oldest human footprints on Earth are still being dug up, where the continent begins, where the days are measured by the distance between 2 trees, and where the trees are sometimes 3 kilometers apart, where everything is flat and everything is far. Next week on Raw Latitude.